Good day, Miss. I'm Janine Angel P. Bale, the first reporter for our group with the topic Men and Masculinity. So without further ado, I will now start my discussion. Since the 1970s, men's studies have always been prevalent, from men in the labor market to men in the family and even violent men. But during the 20th centuries, these studies of men have increased dramatically. So the question is, why? Basically because in the 20th century, it is the rise of women's feministic movement, and to answer this, men were under challenged by this, thus they made studies of men and masculinities popular. So the first discussion for this topic is about the men's rights lobby or the men's rights movement. So what is it all about? Well, it is a branch of movement that consists of groups that promote social issues which discriminates men regarding family laws such as child custody, alimony, and the likes. So one of the main founding texts of this lobby is by Warren Farrell in his book, The Myth of Male: Why is Men the Disposable Sex in 1994. Warren Farrell stated there, "Men are now the gender victims as a result of feminism having gone too far, with men having increased responsibilities but few rights around issues of marriage, divorce, child custody, and access to children." However, this was not taken seriously by some researchers because they believe that this pro-male movement is just a reaction or a backlash to the pro-feminist movement. And now let us all move on to the main topic, which is the masculinity themes. Masculinity is a social, cultural, and historical construct dependent on and related to other factors such as class, ethnicity, sexuality, age, and disability. Researchers on men's studies and masculinity established common themes which strengthened and developed these evolving concepts. So the first masculinity theme that we will be discussing is about the multiple masculinity. According to this, there is no one pattern of masculinity that can be found everywhere. Different cultures and different times in history depicts culture differently. So to further understand the concept, I have researched some examples and experiments regarding this. One of the most prevailing culture in the United States is the culture of honor. It is a social norm that condones and even encourages responding to insults with aggression. In an experiment made by Cohen, Nisbet, Birdell, and Schwartz in 1996, they stated that the homicide rate in the United States is significantly higher in the southern and western states but lower in the eastern and northern states. In one series of their experiments, they investigated how a white male student who grew up in the northern and how a white male student who grew up in the southern part of US react to an insult. The results showed that unlike the northerners, students from the south who had been bumped were more likely to think that their masculine reputation had been threatened, thus they exhibited aggressive behaviors. So regarding the experiment I have stated a while ago, we can really conclude that masculinity differs from one culture to another, from one period to another, and from one country to another. Now we can really say that masculinity is multiple and it has a lot of determining factors. The next one is hierarchy and hegemony. This form of masculinity is culturally dominant in a given setting. Hegemonic signifies cultural authority and leadership but not total dominance, as other form of masculinity persists alongside. Hegemonic masculinity embodies popular heroes, role models, and fictional characters. Mel in 1997 contains within it the image of men in power, a man with power, and a man of power. We equate manhood with being strong, successful, capable, reliable, in control. The very definition of manhood we have developed in our culture maintain the power that some men have over other men and that men have over women. Moreover, hegemonic masculinity is hegemonic not just in relation to other masculinities but in the gender order as a whole. It is the privilege men have collectively over other women. On the other hand, hierarchy in masculinities is an expression of the unequal shares of the privilege held by other groups of men. Thus, some men are deemed higher than the other, as well as higher than the other forms of gender.
Good day everyone, I am Steven Galono and let's continue the topic. Collective masculinities is the individual pattern of conduct defined by gender structure of society. It also exists into different levels of collective institution. For example, number 1, government, corporation, schools, and armies. It also exists in games and sports. When we talk about games, as we can see the different male characters in games, they have this strong character. When we talk about sports, it shows how aggressive men are. Like American football, it shows the aggressiveness of men. Masculinities and well-being, which shows strong association between rigid norms and what it means to be a man. And it also shows the men's practices and invulnerabilities. Talking about home, we also have this term which is domestic enterprise. It is the way for men to contribute financially and accompany their children outside the home or school. It's not the sole responsibility of a mother to take care of their children. It might be the feminine way, but it is part of being a man and a husband. When a particular man has a problem, they are in a state of a stress situation, men are unlikely to talk about their feelings. Instead, they engage in drinking and other destructive behavior like addiction and substance abuse. And when he gets drunk, he will engage in fighting and other physical violence that might harm other parties. Stoic and rigid notion of masculinity serve as an evidence to the suicidal and depression of men that prevent them with like a barrier to help and health seeking behavior. There is also a strong relation between masculinity, alcohol, and drug use. In many settings, men are encouraged to drink in order for them to boost their confidence. When men get drunk, fight and homicide are likely to happen. Men drunkenness are expected to get tolerated by women as part of being a man. Because of this situation, drug use and drug dealing serve as a building block in constructing a powerful masculine identity. Like when you are using drug, you are cool and you are strong. Protest masculinity, a form of marginalized masculinity which picks up a theme in a context of hegemonic masculinity in society at large, but rework them in a context of poverty. It is akin to hegemonic masculinity, but in socially deprived contexts. For instance, the extreme form of sex-type behavior of a man and physical aggression which resulted to homicide and fights. It violates the women's right because that particular woman did not give her permission, is often the product of narcissism built from deep feeling of powerfulness and insecurity because that particular man is thinking that he is powerful enough to do even bad things. Caring masculinity, which are the concept that men are able to adopt what is viewed traditionally feminine characteristic without deporting or rejecting masculinity. For instance, the particular man is cooking, cleaning the house, and being expressive enough to show his feelings. He exclude domination and embrace relational, emotional, and interdependent quality of care. It adapts values and characteristic of care that oppose hegemonic masculinity, resulted to a happy family. And it's not the sole responsibility of a man to make your home happier. It should be woman and man helping each other in constructing the dream life in order for them to have a better future. That would be all. Thank you.